You know, in the high-stakes world of ancient politics, a single marriage could build an empire, or it could burn one to the ground. Today, we're diving into the incredible story of a royal wedding from the 9th century BC, a political deal that was supposed to bring peace, but instead, it unleashed a firestorm of betrayal, murder, and almost total destruction. It sounds a little dramatic, doesn't it? But that's the heart of our story. Can one single I do, one political handshake, really set off a chain reaction so catastrophic that it pushes an entire nation to the very brink of collapse? Well, let's find out. All right, to really get what went down, we've got to go back, way back, to the 9th century BC. The scene is set with two rival Hebrew kingdoms. Now, they shared a history, but believe me, they were on completely different paths. So on one side, you've got the southern kingdom of Judah. It's led by the pretty devout King Jehoshaphat, who's all about the worship of Yahweh. And on the other side, the northern kingdom of Israel, ruled by the infamous duo King Ahab and his wife Jezebel. And they were busy promoting the worship of a totally different deity, Baal. So you've got two kingdoms, two kings, and two very, very different gods. But even with these huge religious divides, both kings were desperate for some stability. I mean, all this fighting was just bleeding their kingdoms dry. So they reached for a classic move from the royal playbook, one that's been used for centuries to get peace and power, a marriage alliance. So here's the deal they cooked up. To seal the peace, Athaliah, that's the daughter of Israel's King Ahab and Jezebel, would marry Jehoram, who is the son and heir of Judah's King Jehoshaphat. It was a union designed to literally tie these two rival royal families together. And let's be super clear here, this was not a love story. This was pure strategy. A marriage alliance was a cold, hard calculation. It was all about using family ties to forge political and military bonds. I mean, on paper, it looked brilliant. A genius move to stop years of conflict. But this alliance, it had a fatal flaw. You see, this alliance wasn't just bringing a new princess to Jerusalem. It was wheeling a giant Trojan horse right through the city gates. And inside was an ideology that would threaten Judah's very identity from the inside out. That peace treaty? Yeah, it came with a hidden price tag. Athaliah didn't just show up with her luggage. She brought her religious beliefs with her. And that was the Baal worship pushed by her infamous parents, Ahab and Jezebel. All of a sudden, the very thing that made the two kingdoms rivals was now living inside the palace walls. And the first real signs of trouble, well, they started to bubble up right after Jehoshaphat died, and his son, Jehoram, took the throne, with his new queen, Athaliah, right there by his side. Jehoram's time as king was, to put it mildly, a disaster. Under Queen Athaliah's influence, the whole country's spiritual focus started to shift over to Baal worship. And that internal crisis, it had major external consequences. All those political alliances his dad had carefully built up, they started to crumble. Key territories like Edom saw the weakness and revolted and won, shrinking Judah's borders. The stability his father had worked so hard for was just unraveling. But if you think that was bad, the real crisis hit when Jehoram died after only 8 years as king. What happened next was a lightning-fast spiral into chaos that ended with a power grab so brutal, nobody could have seen it coming. I mean, just look at how quickly it all fell apart. This whole nightmare unfolds in a single year, 841 BC. First, King Jehoram dies. Okay. Then his son Ahaziah becomes king, only to be killed himself almost immediately. In just a few months, Judah has lost 2 kings. It's a total power vacuum. So the question is, with the king and his direct heir both dead and gone, who is left to take charge? The entire royal line is just hanging by a thread. The answer comes from the one person who stood to gain the most from all this chaos, the Queen Mother herself, Athaliah. With her son out of the picture, she saw her chance, and she took it. 6. For 6 long years, Athaliah would rule Judah. She is still the only woman to ever rule the kingdom all by herself, not as a regent for a son, but as the one and only monarch. And how did she lock down her power? With an act of unbelievable brutality. She ordered the execution of her own family, her own grandchildren, anyone and everyone who could possibly challenge her for the throne. The Davidic dynasty, which had ruled for generations, was nearly exterminated in one bloody, ruthless coup. So let's step back. What was the ultimate cost of that one strategic wedding? While the aftermath of Athaliah's coup really shows us the true extent of the damage. The legacy was just devastating. On the religious side, Baal worship was now the official state religion. Politically, the kingdom was being run by a usurper who had literally murdered her way to the top, and the royal line itself was brought right to the edge of extinction. But there was one tiny sliver of hope. An infant prince named Joash, who was secretly rescued by the high priest and hidden away from his grandmother. At the end of the day, the one marriage that was supposed to guarantee Judah's security did the exact opposite. It dragged the kingdom's monarchy, its dynasty, and its entire religious identity to the absolute verge of destruction. And all of this leaves us with a question that is just as real today as it was back then. It's a lesson that echoes through history, through politics, and even into our own lives. At what point does a deal, a strategic alliance made for security and peace, become a compromise so deep that it threatens the very things you are trying to protect in the first place?